Good evening and welcome to the July 9th meeting of the PACE Review Committee. Uh, Let's start with a quick roll call. My name's Jim Bartlett,
I'm Camp Clausen.
Laura Lawson.
and that's Kara Fox has an excused absence this evening with a conflict. So, and we do have one vacancy on the board, but that does comprise a quorum, so we're in good shape there. Let's review very quickly the process that we're going to go through this evening. We'll have each of you come up and give a brief description of your project. As you give your description, we will likely have some questions that we're asking. And as we're asking those, we have a score sheet that we fill out. Each one of us fills ours out independently of each other, and we turn them in. Those scores are then averaged. In order for a project to qualify for a grant, it has to average a score of 36 points or higher. Now, once all of the scoring is in, once we've had all of the projects presented to us and the scores are in, then we'll make a motion as to whether or not to recommend the projects to the Board of Public Works. We do not actually approve the grants. The grants are actually approved by the Board of Public Works on recommendation from this board. Now, we do have a complication this evening, and that is at the beginning of the evening, we do not have enough funds to fully fund all of the applications. Now, that could change between now and the Board of Public Works meeting on Monday, because there is an old grant out there that has not been exercised yet. So those funds could come back into the bucket, and so it's possible that by Monday we do have enough funds to fund all of the projects, but tonight we don't. So any recommendation we make will consider that lack of funds for the projects. Let's see, there was something else I was going to mention and I've lost it. Have I missed anything? Okay. If it comes to my mind, I'll interrupt our proceedings and interject that. Let's start with 604 Mulberry LLC.
Amended.
I'm sorry?
Amended.
Oh, we do have. I'm sorry. We do have two amendments. First Amendment, 1003 East Street. Is there anybody here to represent that? Okay, we'll revisit that at the end of the meeting. Then 108 East 3rd Street. Would you like to come up and talk to us about the amendment?
I'm Bill Barnes. My wife Stacy and I own 108 East 3rd Street. And so the scope of the grant, we applied in June, and July was the decision point. And we just missed the funding, but we were fortunate enough in October to learn that we had received the grant. So we appreciate that. That kind of slid us back a little bit time-wise because our contractor was doing all the outside stuff before winter, but it did start. And so what we looked at originally was a project of a little over $16,000, which included 2 outbuildings at the rear of our property, as well as a 21-foot by 8-foot brick wall that was leaning against the utility pole. And honestly, if it weren't for the utility pole, the thing would probably come toppling down. It's probably been, I know it's been there, it's been doing that for a long time. Maybe it will stay. So at this point, we were going, the original proposal had our contractor Omar Zanabria providing someone he works with doing all the masonry work. And and so that quote, that proposal was around 16,000. I'm pretty sure that was a very inexpensive, we'll call it cheap labor. The gentleman he was going to have do that earlier this year decided that he was going to leave the area. So Omar no longer had that sort of in-house, if you will, mason. So he informed me a couple months ago that I needed to go find another option. And so I did talk to Dennis Webster, and he provided a quote, and I've provided that, I think, to you all. So you can see that's just for that part, if you add the support columns, because 21 feet needs some sort of support when you go 8 feet high, do that and break it down and then build it back up, not all the way to the ground, but you know, at least halfway down or more. That alone is around $12,000. So as it is, if we just focus on his bid for those two buildings with what we've already put in, I'm still estimating our total project cost to be about $18,000 to $19,000, because there are other things that are going to need to be done before the end of the grant period. So that would send us into the neighborhood of $30,000 when we originally thought it would be about half that. So what we're asking is that if we can take the wall out at this point, focus on the buildings, continue to make them useful, and if you look at one of them, and it's in pretty bad shape, so we want to get those stable. And then at some point we want to, you know, we're going to have, it's not going to be easy to do that. Maybe we'll have to get other bids, but we eventually want to do that wall. That we want to do it right, and perhaps even apply for a PACE grant down the road for that.
So essentially, the work on that wall is being removed from the,
That's the scope is changing just to remove it, and I'm sorry, we gave you a longer-winded explanation, but it was that the cost with one gentleman doing labor is vastly different than Dennis Webster and his team, and I think that he'll do great work. I've seen his work, but that's the ask, basically.
okay, all right. And your original grant was for how much?
The grant would be $7,500.
Was $7,500?
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
And at this point, we are this close to the $7,500 that Stacy and I have, so we are like $7,440 that we've already paid so far. And some of the garage was in worse shape, termite damage. When the fascia boards came down, the whole header across there had to be replaced, and so, you know, that's not surprising. We kind of thought we'd run into stuff like that.
So the bottom line is that effectively the $7,500 portion of the project doesn't, the PACE $7,500 portion of the project doesn't change based on what you're describing to me, I don't think.
Well, this you mean the city is providing?
You're right.
The $7,500 would still, the scope, the only thing different is that
The part you're doing is more expensive than you
it's so
anticipated.
much more expensive than what, so the $7,500 is, as you can see, that those two buildings are still a part of it, and they need quite a bit of work. If you walk around and look at them, the garage door has been replaced, and so we are, you know, it's the roofs are fine, but everything else is pretty bad shape on those buildings, and so that's basically it.
Questions?
No.
No.
So I would entertain a motion that we accept the amendment, and with the amendment, leave the grant in place.
Are you making the motion?
I'm offering to accept that motion.
I'll make the motion.
All right. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And as I said before, we'll revisit 1003 East Street at the end of the meeting. And with that, now we'll go down to 604 Mulberry Street.
Ryan Rogers, 804 East First Street. My wife Kelly owns 604 Mulberry. As you guys know, this is my third time around. Thanks to meeting with Nicole, I have a better understanding understanding of how to do the paperwork. Kind of reminds me of something my dad used to tell me, if all else fails, follow the directions. So, in the previous submittals that we put in, I've changed those quite a bit, and the reason is we've had more time to take a look at the building and come up with some better ideas as far as how to go forward. But the first thing that I wanted to talk about is the dollar amount of the project. Originally, I had it at $53,000. I had misunderstood what I was supposed to be giving you. I thought I was giving you just the work that we were doing under the PACE grant. My wife and I are going to be putting new electric, heating, plumbing, everything through this house, so it's going to be closer to $150,000. It's 3 bathrooms, new kitchen, new furnaces, a lot of foundation and stabilization work. Some of the changes that I made in it is I originally asked for fiberglass doors for the front and the side. We've changed that. We're actually going to use a wood door that I found. It's a 4-panel, 7-foot tall, very close to what we've originally been there. The side door will be a half-white wood door, and I'm not sure whether I need to get a pole on that to make those changes, but it's a door that come out of another Madison house as well. There's 2 more doors on the project that I'm going to have to find wood doors for, but my intent is to install all original doors. The windows in the house are in pretty good shape on the front, and one of them on the back. There are 2 in the back, second floor, that have been changed probably in the 50s. That's in bad shape, so I may have to replace those, but any of the windows that are salvageable will be salvaged. On the back of the building, we're replacing the 2 additions. Right now, it has T111 siding, which is kind of from the 1970s. That will be the approved LP Smart siding when we're done, so it'll actually look closer to what was probably originally there. And it'll have a similar trim detail to any of the wood structures around town. The roof system will remain asphalt shingle, but that's what is there now. As far as the visibility of the project, you can see it on Mulberry. You can also see it over the fence from East 4th. And the addition parts that are being rebuilt are the most visible from the 4th Street vantage point. The house has been vacant for about a year. As I mentioned, we're spending about $150,000 total to bring it all back to where it needs to be. And most likely it will be a rental. We thought about selling it, but ultimately we'd like to keep it as a rental. It just really depends on how much the investment ends up being. The building has been deemed unsafe by the building inspector, which is one of the problems with the first time I brought it before the board. It did not have that letter. The letter is in place now.
And of course, you've heard most of our questions, so you answered most of those in your description.
We missed by a half point last time.
You mentioned the doors. It's not on the list that I'm looking at. Did that get updated? The
Well, I took it off the first.
project budget worksheet?
Took it off the,
I'm looking at a price of $51,177, and yet on the front, we're looking at $150,000. The front reflects what you're stating. On the details and description of the projects, there's no mentioning of the doors, nor on the, and then on the detailed project budget worksheet, it's not matching that
Number
pricing.
4, under the description of the project, says paint exterior, body trim, doors, windows, and repaired wood exterior. That probably should have had doors in it as well. Currently, there's a fiberglass door on the front door, and both side doors that exist have been damaged due to people breaking into them. So I really can't fix those, but I do have one door that I can use on the side, and I found, as I mentioned, I found a 4-panel original door for the front of the house,
change in the doors need to go back to, historic board?
I'll have to look at what he's proposing, but likely it will just be staff reviewed.
Okay. Any other questions?
When you're mentioning the front, where you're taking that plywood off, that's actually restoring it back to the original, correct? Right.
Yeah, for some reason they covered up the original transom with a piece of plywood. I don't know whether it's the sun angle or why.
How long's the property been vacant?
About a year.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's gonna be a good project when it's done.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting started.
Thank you.
Okay, 118 West Fifth Street.
Good evening. I'm Dave Patterson. A couple months ago, I just purchased 118 West Fifth Street. It's actually right down the street from my other house that we came to you guys a couple years ago and did a PACE grant too. That was 107 East Fifth Street. So this house has been vacant for I don't know how long. I'm guessing since 1970 or 1980. This was the house where Charles O'Banion lived. We're figuring the house is dated back to somewhere between 1860 and 1900. So we're gonna guess around 1880. The house is a total gut inside and out. It needs everything. Exterior, there's no electric. As of right now, there's no plumbing to the house. The previous owner, he jacked the house up about 2 feet to get it out of the floodplain zone, flood area. So it does have 3 large I-beams underneath it, substantially holding it pretty well. I did come and the building inspector did see it and said that the I-beams were okay to leave in there. And recently, for the past month, I have a stone mason that is actually using a lot of the old stone that's still there, and we had to supply some new. So he's fixing the foundation now for it. So it should be original look when it's finished. We'll end up putting new siding on it, like I did my other house on 107. We're gonna do the LP textured siding, all new windows, everything in there it's pretty well shot. We're gonna use the double hung aluminum clad with the grills built in. The doors, the front door might be salvageable. It's close. I'd like to save it. It gives good character and good appeal to the front of the house. If not, we were gonna do a 4-pane window, solid mahogany doors for the front, back, and side. The roof right now is a metal standing seam. We're gonna replace that with brand new standing seam again. And like I said, it needs everything, HVAC. There's nothing there right now. It's pretty open. There are 2 foundations. There's one foundation in the rear of the house, and then there's one to the west of it that has nothing built on it right now. The west side, we're gonna make that into probably a master suite bedroom with a bath, full bath in there, and then the back foundation we'll build on. That's gonna be probably the full kitchen. So, and this does have a small upstairs to it, which I haven't been up there yet because there's no steps. And no steps to the basement. The basement is really the money shot. It's a nice big basement. Underneath every floor of the house will be a full basement with about a 9-foot ceiling to it. So It looks like the previous owner also, he's replaced the floor joists in it, the plywood for the floor, and some of the studs, exterior studs for the exterior of the house. But other than that, it's a full restoration project.
What's the end plan?
The game end plan is probably future residency / Airbnb.
So it has a basement, but yet he lifted it up, because I always thought that house was moved the way it sits there, had been moved there.
No,
But
I
to-
got pictures from a neighbor, I think they were taken back in 1950 or 1960. So the foundation in the back and the foundation on the west side, that would be the north and the west side, those were originally attached to the house, and that was actually, the left side of it was actually a porch with a bedroom in there. So that was tore off at some time, I'm not sure when, but yeah, the previous owner was David Pond, and he's the one that jacked it up. He said he didn't move it left or right. I did have the property surveyed, and the front of the house, of course, is right on the city property line, just like the other houses on that road. So, it looks like it was just jacked up almost a full, I think it was 22.5 inches.
But he said that was to avoid flood insurance, because typically flood insurance is based on the lowest part of the home, so if it has a basement, then
Yeah,
you're pretty much stuck with
I don't
flood
know about the
insurance.
flood insurance aspect. He wanted to get it out of the flood zone.
Right.
As much as he could. And I think that property, the way that front road, it kind of tears off into the front door of that house for the runoff. So I think at that point, I could imagine 22.5 inches down, that was, a lot of the water was coming in the front door. And that's what did a lot of damage to the front foundation that started pushing it in.
Gotcha.
And you say that at the end of the day, it will probably be a rental then
It will.
of some form, fashion?
Yes, yeah, probably maybe future residency, yeah.
Okay.
Airbnb, not like a everyday rental.
Is it seen from more than just Fifth Street?
Please?
Is it seen from just Fifth Street?
Yes, I believe it is. Right across from the Norton Large parking lot, the old hospital.
Well, it's definitely going to be a challenge.
Fun challenge. I look forward to it. Just the stonework right now that's being finished on it, it's sealing the house amazing. It looks beautiful.
Mhm.
And the front of the house has a lot of gingerbread up and down the peak. We're definitely looking to save that and take it down. Probably not use that original wood, but we'll duplicate it. And a lot of molding and fancy work around the windows above and below, above the front door. We're gonna salvage all that.
And I believe I included a copy, but this has been deemed unsafe by the building inspector.
I didn't ask, but I'd made that assumption.
The first day I owned it,
Yeah.
I went ahead and we put barrier around it, safety barrier, just to keep kids and everybody out of the basement, just in
Yeah.
case.
And you did include that certificate. Any questions?
No, sir?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It'll be a challenge.
Yes, sir. It'll work. Thank you.
Okay, 301 Jefferson Street.
Hello, I am Matt Chandler, owner of 301 Jefferson Street and also 221 East Second Street, which is the next item. So a unique aspect of these two buildings are, previously owned by sign painter Kevin Carlson, and the buildings are adjoined together, so we had them surveyed off as separate structures or entities. However, they will be encompassed by one business entity, which will be Vintage Lanes LLC, and that is a duck pin bowling center on Second Street, 2 stories, 4 lanes of duck pin bowling on each floor, and then the wine bar on the Jefferson Street side on the first level, and then a 2-story apartment above the wine bar, and then the basement is also being finished as a speakeasy, and then a rooftop terrace to be installed.
And I don't want to interrupt you, but since it is 2 separate applications, let's concentrate
Okay.
on Jefferson Street first, so we don't get our wires
Yep,
crossed
sure,
here.
Of course. So 301 Jefferson Street will be the first floor. The storefront there on Jefferson will be converted into a wine bar, and then the 2 levels above it will be converted into a 2-story apartment, long-term apartment. And then there is a speakeasy that will be installed in the cellar, so we'll have that finished out as well. But there's a lot of different moving parts to this investment. I want to focus in, specifically on Jefferson. Overall investment between both buildings is over $1.5 million investment for the community that's going to be put into this business. So new electrical was separated out between both businesses. So entirely new electrical will be put in throughout both structures. And then we'll be restoring the entire storefront as well. So you'll have windows, doors, painting, tuck pointing, complete restoration of the facade of the building, and then also reinforcement structurally, which is kind of outlined in a couple different areas on the initial application. So I'll just kind of pause there, because there is a lot of moving parts to this building due to its size and what we're going to be converting it into.
On the application for 301 Jefferson Street, it's saying that the total cost is 1.5 million. That's between the 2 buildings.
That's between the 2 buildings.
Okay.
And of course, that's a corner building, so obviously is visible from 2 different streets.
Correct.
Not the 301 Jefferson, the one next to it is, correct?
Yeah, that's the one we're
The
talking about.
21 East Second, the 301 Jefferson just faces Jefferson Street, doesn't it?
301 faces Second and Jefferson.
Second and Jefferson. I must have it backwards, okay.
Has that building been deemed unsafe?
No.
No, okay.
How long has it been empty?
Not very long. I'd say less than a year. We purchased it right after Kevin Carlson, he was living in the building.
On that facade, the front, you said you're replacing everything?
We're restoring the storefront on the facade, so that's the glass and the entry door there as well, and then we have a new entry point for egress on that. Is that on the 301 or is that the Jefferson? Yeah, on the 301 side as well. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, sir.
No, sir?
All right. Don't run away. We're going to talk about the other building now. Okay, now let's talk about the 221 East Second Street building.
Okay. So 221 East Second, that will be that's what I call the warehouse side, which will be converted to the duck pen bowling. So that will be 4 lanes of duck pen bowling on the first floor and 4 lanes on the second floor, and then the install of a rooftop terrace and bar on the rooftop. So we have to do a lot of restoration, some reconfiguration for egress, ingress. So there'll be a new service door installed on the far left side of that building, and then where currently there is the kind of the farmhouse style doors in the front, that will be converted into kind of an exterior bar, and then a garage door opening. During the summertime, people can walk by and kind of visualize, what the business is about, watch the bowlers. If we have Dora by that time, then people could stop there and have a cocktail as well. And then restoring the windows, all the industrial windows, and then tuck pointing and repainting the facade of the building. And then on that piece with the rooftop terrace, there are some structural integrity issues, so we have to install, and I'll let you kind of speak to this, Brian Martin's here as our contractor, the steel to reinforce which I've included in the application, for the rooftop terrace, because currently as is, it wouldn't work and hold the capacity for the rooftop safely.
So you're keeping the industrial windows though?
Yeah, those are all
But
being
getting
restored.
rid of the doors and making a garage door type thing?
Correct.
Gotcha.
And then new electrical all on that side as well.
And has that one been deemed unsafe?
No.
Okay.
How long's it been vacant?
I'd say less than a year. I don't think he was really using that side as much, but I think it was kind of a workshop.
And that building, that building is visible from Jefferson as well, though it's on Second.
So it's visible from Second and Jefferson?
Yes.
Yeah, if you're standing on the corner there, like by the Circle K, you can see the building.
Okay. I'm good.
Any other questions?
No, sir?
Good luck.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It's a major project.
Yeah. You know you're right there.
Okay, 820 West Main. Anybody here for that one?
Good evening. Paul Lee, I assume I'm supposed to state my name. It's 820 West Main Street. I purchased this property October of 2023. It was a rental for about 20 years, and I bought it to restore and turn into an Airbnb, eventually maybe make it a permanent resident for myself and my wife. We have another property on West Main Street where the Piggly Wiggly used to be. We purchased one of those. And I knew this house needed work when I bought it. I did not get an inspection before I bought it. And wow, is all I can say. It's a complete gut job. Right now it is dirt floors. All the floor joists were rotted, the sill plates were rotted, had extreme foundation damage, so it is on jack stands right now, getting foundation repaired. The entire interior of everything It's, gonna be restored with using the original rock foundation. So you'll see that where it'll be exposed. The footprint of the house is not changing, except for interior. There will be some new walls put up in a little bit different design. There was, internal chimneys that was built in the late 1800s, that are being restored. They won't be functional fireplaces. It was originally, had coal. So when a lot of the walls came down, it was very, very dirty in there. But it'll have all new interior, floor joists, flooring, ceiling, everything but the roof. The roof is in good shape. As of right now, there is no leaks. The shingles are maybe 5 to 7 years old. It had original wood siding with aluminum siding on the outside, which it still does. That is all gonna be removed with LP Smart siding, so it'll look original to the original wood siding, as close as possible. It's gonna have to have all new windows. A lot of the windows on the Main Street side will remain similar. They won't be the same one, but they'll be the same look and style and material. The side windows will be replaced with transom windows. There is none on the west side of the house. There is no windows, but there will be transom windows to let light in, because the house, the houses are basically 2 feet apart, 3 feet apart at the most. The original doors, or placement of the doors will be there. The original doors could not be salvaged. Maybe the front door, maybe. I'm gonna try to. Don't know if it will be able to be salvaged, but the other doors, there's no way. They were gone. Previous owner had done, or owners before, maybe before that owner, had done repairs that were obviously not by a licensed person. And it was in very bad shape when I got it that I wasn't aware of. So right now it's basically just a shell. So that's my plans. All new electric, heating, air, plumbing, complete renovation, foundation to the ceiling, everything.
Do you have any guesstimate as how long that property's been vacant?
I bought it in October of last year. It was not vacant. It was a rental for 20 years before that. So it's been vacant since then, and I apologize for the long time to do the repair so far. It's just been stabilizing, total gut interior of everything, and getting it stabilized right now. Obviously, contractors are hard to schedule, and shortly after I bought that, I was in a horrific car accident that I'm still recovering from, so that put a damper for several months. So it's, the plan was to have it done September of this year. It's not gonna be. It's probably gonna be November or December before it's complete, 100% done.
Has this building been deemed unsafe?
No.
Okay.
If I had it inspected right now, it probably would be, because it's the condition it is in now.
And ultimately, you want it to turn it into a rental?
It'll be, no, I don't wanna be a
Oh.
rental, it'll be an Airbnb. Eventually, so the house we live in now, obviously you're probably familiar with them.
Mhm.
They are 2-story. In 10 years or something, maybe not even that long, we get tired of going up and down the stairs, we will probably eventually downsize, move into this house. Is an option we're looking at, so that's one reason, the extensive renovation.
Right.
I want it to be the way I want it, instead of patching it, renting it.
And I'm sure you stated it, but I did not catch it. Could you tell me how long it's been empty?
Since I bought it in October of 2023.
Okay.
Is that on an alley that's visible from,
It's right
or
on
another
Main
street?
It's visible from Main Street, and there is an alley behind it is visible from too. I don't know the name of the alley. It's a dead-end alley, so it's not
Right.
to drive
Yeah.
through.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It'd be an interesting project.
Yes, very interesting. Very excited. This is the first one I've done, and my wife told me just to be sure that I don't go overboard, because I tend to overdo everything. So, but yes, it's going to be fun.
Okay, let's do 811 and a half East Second Street first.
Can we do 811 first?
We can do 811 first.
That's number 7.
Sorry.
Which one you want to do first?
We do 811?
811? Okay,
That's number 7, right?
Sorry.
that's Jerry and Louise, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm Brian Martin, 104 Searing Street. Jerry and Louise are my parents. So of the, that half is basically they're funding the whole project. It's gonna be their home, their permanent home. So you guys probably are familiar with this house. It's been ugly for a long time. It was originally built as a duplex, and so we have gone through the motions to have it surveyed and split. It's actually part of what we did yesterday evening at the Plan Commission, is to finalize that survey. So it is a split right down the middle, all the way from front to back, and it's basically going to be a full renovation, saving as much as we can. Front door is beautiful; it's going to be saved. The windows actually are in great shape. They will have to be restored, but they're definitely in good shape. The siding is not bad. We certainly are going to save majority of it. In fact, we would like to, not to get ahead of myself, to my son's application after me, but there is, the way the house was built originally, there's a rear addition. It's kind of suspect as to what exactly happened way long ago in the past, but on his side of that rear addition, there's also wood siding, clapboard siding. We would like to try to salvage some of that for the repairs on the main house, on both parts of the main house, and because the rest of his, as well as then the addition on the rear of my parents, will have to have some new siding. We'll do an LP siding to match everything as much as possible. The siding won't be perfect by any means, but we're going to save it as much as we can, re-secure it, and of course new paint throughout. So there were a couple owners prior to us, and they kind of dabbled. They didn't do a whole lot. They didn't do a lot of cleaning. They did a little bit of rebuilding. So the addition on my parents, the rear of my parents, is a newer construction. But even that is going to have to be addressed. Excuse me. It's not done exceptionally well. It's out of level, out of square. But we will keep it as is. We'll restructure it. And the rest of the house on the interior structure and all the walls, I mean, generally decent, but it definitely needs a lot of restructuring throughout. Front porch, same thing. That was rebuilt by the previous owner. And again, it's okay, but it needs work. And of course, then the front porch needs to be finished as well. New ceiling, beam wrap, and posts. Again, there's the brick guardrail around the porch. We'll keep that, but we have to rework the cap because it's been added onto it. Layers of concrete on top of an ugly finish there. So really across the board, we're taking the house as you see it now and just trying to renovate it, keeping as much of the existing as possible. There will be a new rear door. It'll be period appropriate, as well as a few new windows on the back. Again, like on my parents' side, I think there was an exterior wall that got encompassed in the addition that they built, or the previous owners built. There was an original window in there. We'll try to repurpose that if we can, but otherwise, we want to get a little more light on the north side of the property, so there'll be some new windows. They'll be aluminum clad, wood interior, aluminum clad exterior, matching what we can to the style that's there now. Again, foundation work. It's not bad, but it needs work. Utilities are all suspect. Certainly, there's nothing usable with electric, plumbing, HVAC. So really, what we've done to date is just done some basic cleanup. I think it's been empty for
Probably a little over 30 years.
unless you count the vultures and
Squatting
raccoons,
vultures,
because the vultures have been in there recently. And not real happy that we're taking over, so. And that's one reason, you can see the windows, like on the second floor, you can, if you go by, you can see they're out. We've saved them, we've removed them carefully, but the building has to breathe. It was pretty nasty inside for sure. And we have had some asbestos removed from the basement. There's all the boiler and water heaters, and all the old piping. Some of it was wrapped in some asbestos packing and wrapped. So we have had that removed as well. So, and then took down quite a few trees right before 4th of July. We'll continue to clean that mess up. So
Has that property been deemed unsafe?
Yes.
There's a letter in there.
I hadn't found the letter. And your parents can use this for the residents?
yes, they will. After about 15 years of pleading with them to move to Madison, they're doing it. So.
Is this visible from just second, or is this the one that's on the corner?
It's on the corner, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
All right. Stay put.
Okay, I'll sit here, let him
All right.
pop up on that one. We'll swap.
Thank you.
So now we're looking at the other half of the building, 811 East Second Street.
811 and a half, East Second.
Yes.
Or 811 and a half, I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah. Of course, my name is Jacob Benzer for 811 and a half East Second. And the plan here is for, I will live on that half of the building. And again, it's been vacant for, we think, just over 30 years. It's mostly original interior and exterior. Original siding, original interior. I mean, nothing's really been updated. It it doesn't have plumbing, HVAC, electric. Then we have an original front door, no original back door. We'll have to get some form of replacement, something appropriate for time period. And we have all of the windows. They all need work. Several need a lot more work than others, but we have all of the windows for this half. But yeah, it's been vacant for a very long time.
On your application, and I probably should have asked this on the first one, I've noticed that it says $190,000 as the total cost of repair. Was that for the whole building, or was that just per
I believe it's per half.
half? Okay.
Yes. That's how we put that together.
And this is the one that's visible just from Second Street?
Oh, no, this is the east half. This is the one on the corner.
Okay, all right.
Technically, they're both visible, but this is the east
Yeah.
side.
I'm sorry, but it got me all confused with the halves and all that, so.
You're not the only one.
restructuring, correct?
It needs a lot. And for a place that hasn't had anything really done to it, nothing serious anyway, for over 30 years and probably really then some, it needs a lot.
I'm assuming that this one, I haven't seen the letter here, I'm assuming it's,
Yes, it has also been deemed unsafe.
okay.
We did one letter for both halves.
Right.
I'm good, are you good?
I'm good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You guys.
That's it.
And with that, is there anybody here with 1003 East Street?
Brian Marshall, 201 Plum Street.
Tell us about the amendment.
Put vinyl windows in there, and I guess they're not part of the PACE grant, so I actually forgot about this meeting. I thought it was another date, but what's the situation, Nicole?
Yeah, so the application originally had aluminum clad windows as replacements, but vinyl were installed, which was okay for historic board, but PACE does not pay for vinyl windows. So the amendment is to remove those and that associated cost from the scope of work.
Okay.
There you go. I think the only thing really is the last one.
So that, yeah, it makes about $750 difference in your PACE grant. Not a huge change, but obviously a change. So, once again, I would honor a motion to accept the amendment as presented.
I make a motion to accept.
Let's second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ready?
We're ready.
Okay. So, application for 604 Mulberry Street. Again, all of these are out of a minimum score of 36. That one scored 43. 118 West 5th Street scored 43.67. 301 Jefferson Street scored 33.33. 221 East 2nd Street scored 33.67. 820 West Main Street scored 31. 811.5 East 2nd Street scored 50. And 811 East 2nd Street scored 50.67.
Okay. So the three that did not qualify were the three that did not have unsafe structure letters.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So with that in mind, we do have enough adequate funding to fund all of the qualifying projects, correct?
Correct.
So I would make a motion that we recommend the qualifying projects be approved by the Board of, yes, thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And for those of you who aren't familiar, this is what I meant to say earlier in the meeting, is this will come before the Board of Public Works for final approval at their next meeting. You do not need to be at that meeting unless you just want to be, because Nicole will shepherd the projects through that scored high enough to be considered by the board. All right. Do we have any other business? With that, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Second that motion.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Thank you all.